Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Learn Partimento podcast. I'm so thrilled to introduce, or rather, to welcome back to the show Professor Peter Schubert. He is one of the, really counterpoint royalty in on our show. Really someone who is so admired for the way he has revolutionized the way counterpoint is being taught in the classroom today. And so many people in the Partimento community have recommended his techniques and recommended his books. Today is a very special day because he is he's in the process of publishing a revision to his Baroque Counterpoint textbook. And he's going to be talking to me today. And in fact, it's very exciting. We even will be playing examples from his book, and it'll be very thrilling. We'll talk about fugal technique, and we will talk about role of the octave and a lot of interesting things. So, Professor Schubert, welcome again to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me back. This is really fun.
So I wanted to get started with this other book. Now, people might know that many Partimento teachers in the community have recommended your book, Modal Counterpoint, as a great way to start learning counterpoint. And this book, can you give me a little bit of information on this book? Because this book is not as well known. It's actually, is it out of print at the moment?
Yes, right now it's out of print, but it's going to be published, I think in about a year. We'll have the new edition out with the State University of New York Press. So they're taking it on and we're revising it for them. So it's going to be a while, but this book is a little bit like the Renaissance book in that it uses examples and some quotations from treatises in the period. So whereas those people were Zarlino and Tigrini and people like that, now we're into the 18th century. And so we have quotes and musical examples, a lot from Marburg, Matheson, Kirnberger, and a little bit of Remo, but Remo doesn't talk that much about fugue. This book is really focused on fugue, even though there are arias and concerto movements and sonatas and stuff in it. The real focus is fugue because I think if you can write a fugue, you can write anything. Whereas if you can only write a little dance piece, you can't write a fugue. So if fugue is the most interesting and the most complicated, the deepest and richest kind of music that we have. And so we have not only those treatise authors, but we have musical examples from Bach, of course, but also many less well-known people like Pergolesi and Pachelbel and Marcello and Leyer, just a lot of different people who are not as complicated as Bach. So you want to start with somebody a little bit more superficially comprehensible because Bach is too bewildering to start beginners off with.
Can I ask you, Professor Schubert, let me ask you a question. Now, it's obviously a great undertaking to write any book, and it's really it's really quite an achievement to publish a book. Can we talk a little bit about the story about that book, the first edition? Did that happened after your Modal Counterpoint book? And so I'd love to know what was the reaction to your Modal Counterpoint book, and then what motivated you to write the first edition of the Baroque Counterpoint book?
The reaction to the first book, the Modal book, well, some people who reviewed it thought it was really good and they liked it. And one person who commented on it said it really captured the sense of play in Renaissance composition. And I thought that was a very astute observation because that's true. Composition is a lot like playing with the materials and making a little model airplane out of some notes. So that was a nice comment. But a lot of people, and I noticed this in your compilation podcast, which I want to plug again, that some of the people there are dyed-in-the-wool hardcore Jeffersonians and Fuchsians. So some of the reactions were not so good.
And you're referring, Professor Schubert, you're referring to this. There was a video I made on how best to learn counterpoint. And I think I surveyed many of my guests who I asked that question to. And like you mentioned, that was a very interesting thing. People referenced Fuchs, but a lot of people said, go check out Peter Schubert's Modal Counterpoint book, because that's a great starting point. But anyway, you were continuing that thought on Jeppesen and Fuchs.
Yeah, well, I really wanted to offer an alternative to Jeppesen and Fuchs because I think they're both really out in left field when it comes to actually modeling on Renaissance music. So
Right.
I have a lot more to say about that, but I'm not going to bore you with it now.
No, maybe
But
we might even
then,
save it later.
okay, well, we can come back to it if you want. But then my colleague Christoph Neidhofer and I were teaching tonal counterpoint. And we thought, why not do a book that's similar to the Renaissance book, but for the 18th century? And that's really how it came about. We both love history of theory, and we love to bring history of theory into the classroom. I think it's great for the students to know the name Marburg and that Marburg had something interesting to say about Fugue. And what is it? And what were his examples? What did people then actually deal with when they read his book? So then, having taught it in the classroom a lot, we realized that you can't just say, oh, here, go read Marburg, because it's incomprehensible. So you have to shape the material a little bit and cut it up into pieces that are bite-sized. And then you have to put them into chapters that are organized according to some conceptual framework. So this week we're doing this, next week we're going to do that. And here's a passage from Marburg that illustrates this, and here's one that illustrates that. So it took a lot of work to sort of organize the historical materials into something that could be used in the classroom for the modern person.
Right. And could you relay the story of what happened to the publishing? How come it went out of print? And I think it was funny, somebody on Reddit said, I want to buy this Baroque Counterpoint book, but it costs $770.
Yeah, that's a real phenomenon, that price gouging in Amazon. Well, the publisher, I don't know if you want to actually go into this. The publisher decided it should go out of print, but they never told us. And so people, like you say, I want to buy this book, but
Yeah.
so people would write to us and say, gee, I want to assign your book to my class again, but the bookstore can't find it. And we wrote to the publisher and said, what's going on? And they eventually said, oh, by the way, it's out of print. And we said, okay, you could have told us. And wouldn't you like to give us back our rights? So that took months.
Mm.
And when we finally got the rights back, SUNY Press, State University of New York Press, approached us and said, how would you like to have your book with us? And we were thrilled because we knew that we wanted to revise it. There were several things in it that we wanted to fix that had sort of gone wrong. The explanation of tonal answer has been fixed, and the explanation of dance steps has been fixed.
What do you mean by fixed?
Oh, it was a little hard to understand. A couple of people complained to me that they didn't like our explanation of tonal answer, which is a huge issue, obviously, in Fugue. So what are you going to do? So we had to fix that. And the dance step thing was also not perfectly clear. So we clarified actually, we cut the dance step discussion and we clarified what Matheson thinks about tonal answer, which is very smart. So we put more of him up front. And then we got the idea that we should put in Partimento, because Partimento is such a huge thing. And honestly, it's partly due to you.
I don't know.
because you have this mission, apparently, to bring Partimento to the world. And Partimento obviously is a very important scholarly issue, but to get it into the classroom, that's just the kind of thing we wanted to do. Like having Marburg in the classroom is nice, but what about having Partimento in the classroom? So we have added, I think, over 50 examples of rule of the octave and Partimento exercises, and they're from various sources. The sources are Fenaroli, which you know well, the Handel Lessons for Princess Anne, the Longlows manuscript, and Pasquini. So Pasquini is one of my favorites. And so later we'll look at a little Pasquini.
Yeah. Can I ask you just a history question for music education? When did you hear about Partimento? When did that happen for you? And because that's quite related to counterpoint, because many people say that Partimento historically was a way to get into counterpoint. For some keyboard, the way they taught Partimento is almost like a primer for written counterpoint.
Yeah, this is a tough one. Well, for obviously, the first thing we heard about it was from Yerdingen and Sanguinetti. And then Peter Ventura has this great book about counterpoint, really counterpoint, and Partimento. I think that what we're doing in this book is a little bit off to the left, because is that the left or the right? I'm not sure. Anyway, it's a little bit different because we really focus on Partimento Fugue. And Partimento Fugue is sort of an amazing thing, because you think of Partimento as, okay, here's the bass line. Your job is just to find chords to put up in the right hand, and maybe you'll have a good little tune once in a while, and that's pretty much the story.
Yeah.
But when it comes to doing Partimento Fugue, it's a lot more concentration is required, as maybe you figured out.
Wow. Well, shall we get into some examples from your book? I think that would be a great way for the listener to really get to grips with what you're talking about. And I have volunteered myself as a guinea pig. And I think it'll be a lot of fun, because I think that it's great for the audience to see this is Professor Peter Schubert teaching. This is kind of how he would teach in a classroom. And it would be kind of, imagine if you're a teacher, let's explore how this could be maybe useful for you if you see this, and maybe you could see a few techniques yourself. So
excellent.
Okay, so hi everyone, we're back. And now we're back, and now we're going to talk about some examples from the book. Professor Schubert, do you want to talk about what we have on screen?
Yes, I totally do. So what you see here is a little Pasquini example. It's used, actually, it was intended as an organ verset in between the chorus singing hymns or psalms or something. But it has all the features of a fugue, and I know it doesn't look like it, but this is like the world's shortest fugue subject. And the subject is the first four notes. Do, re, do. And then the answer is fa, re, do, fa, sol, sol, fa. Okay, that's it. So what we want to do is get used to alternating the dominant form of the theme, do, re, do, with the tonic form, fa, sol, sol, fa. And in order to get used to that, a good plan is to for the student, just to play it up and down the keyboard over and over again in different registers. Maybe you could show example 7P2.
So just to be clear, the subject is the C, and where does the subject end?
It ends 4 notes later. It ends on the next C.
Okay.
So if you show
yep.
Yeah. So could you show the 7P2?
Okay.
The next example. So that shows that the first 4 notes are the dominant form, and the second 4 notes are the tonic form of the theme. Those are also sometimes called the subject and the answer. Yeah, this is now in trouble. Right.
And you want me to just keep going down?
Absolutely.
And so I'm playing the dominant, I'm playing the tonic, I'm playing the dominant, I'm playing the tonic. That's what's happening.
That's exactly right.
That's what's happening.
That's right. So that's just the idea is just to get you used to a short subject and a short answer, and alternating the keys of the two things. Now we could move on to 7P5. So this is another one very similar. It's a 4/8 notes is the subject and 4/8 notes is the answer. And you can play them up and down the keyboard the same way. But
Okay.
now I think we can jump ahead to your making up a counter melody. So the first 4 notes we're going to call the subject, and the next 4 notes we're going to call the answer. And so what you want to do is make up a little, you could just do 4 notes if you want, a little counter melody to those. Maybe you just want to play the tune. We get it in our head a little bit.
And then
Okay,
I just keep
that's
repeating
it.
that.
That's it. That's what you're going to do. Right.
Okay. So
But
the
now,
subject is by itself.
no, well, right now we're just interested in
Okay.
coming up with a combination that works. So what would you like to hear along with E, D sharp, E?
Going to be very simple. So maybe does that work?
Oh yeah, it works great.
Okay.
Okay, now your counter subject began a third above the subject.
Yeah.
So when you go to the answer, you're going to want your counter melody to the answer, which we'll call the counter answer. You want that to start a third above the first note of the answer.
Okay, so like that?
Right.
Like that?
Perfect. That's great.
Okay,
so now keep going.
Oh.
Why not? That's great. That's great. So now if you wanted to actually have the texture of a fugue, you would start with the subject alone and bring in the counter answer above the answer connected to the end of the subject. So why don't you play the subject alone in an upper register?
And just quick question. If
Yeah.
I start, does it start on the where it's written, or do I could start here, or I could start here?
Yeah, you could. I totally agree. You can start anywhere you want.
Okay.
So
that register that's written down there is just the suggestion. It could actually start in a different register.
If you were making a fugue out of it, that's right. But
Okay.
Pasquini is, he's doing something else slightly. So start anywhere you want.
Maybe just the same thing?
That's perfect. Okay, so now what you've just done in your right hand of the upper voice is you played mi, re, re. No, do it again. See, this is, okay. So this is the most important thing is, can you remember how the subject connects to the counter answer? That's the real adventure.
Okay. So the subject.
That's it. So
Okay.
the tune that you played in your right hand, just play it alone once. That's perfect. So what you've just done is you've put together a couple of bits that were originally conceived against the subject. The subject was conceived alone, the answer was conceived alone, and then you put something against it, and then you connected the subject to the counter answer. Now what you have to do is connect the answer to the counter subject.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. So when I'm here.
That's it. Now, how are you going to get, that's right. Play the answer and then the counter subject. Just those two tunes. No, just the answer. Just the answer.
Okay.
No, that's
the answer.
counter.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No, wait, hold on. That was what you just played was the answer and then the subject, but you want to play the answer and then the counter subject.
The answer. Is that what you mean?
And then but just the answer. No, just the answer, though. Just one voice.
Oh.
No, that's the counter answer. That. And then how does that connect to the counter subject? Where does the counter subject start? Do you remember? That's it.
Okay. Oh, I have to link them. Maybe.
That's it.
Maybe just a passing note. So I could go. So. Something like that?
That's right. No, that's fine. You're going to have to play the A very fast, though, because you have to get to the G sharp on the second A. That's right.
Oh,
that's
okay.
Perfect. That's very good. So that's okay. Right. So what you've done now actually takes a fair amount of concentration and a fair amount of focus to do that. Now, why don't you start with the subject?
Oh, it really feels like I'm doing a fugue.
Well,
can I just say that before, when I started my Partimento journey, no, this is a real thing. I said at the beginning, you know what? I really would like to learn how to improvise fugues. And it doesn't matter when, maybe in the future, 5 years, 10 years, but that's something I want to set myself as a goal to. And it is just absolutely mind-blowing that I'm doing this right now. That's just a little, just something to add to what we're doing. So just let me know.
No, it's
very thrilling.
Actually, it's exactly the word I was going to use, was thrilling, because you're actually in control.
I'm surprised I'm following you. That's the biggest. Fugues are terrifying. Okay, so here we go.
No, this is not rocket science. Later there'll be rocket science, but this isn't it yet. Okay, so start with the subject.
Okay.
And
then did I get that right?
Yes, it was perfect.
And then do I just keep going down?
Yeah, I think so.
That's cool.
Okay.
Can I do something? Okay, so this is could I do something like, can I like embellish it a little bit?
Yes, I think that's much better. But now you have to remember that when you play it against the answer.
Oh, okay.
Against the subject. Sorry, I was wrong. Against the subject.
To add that A. Okay, so let me
yes.
Okay, so let's try that again. So subject. Is that something like that?
Oh, it's really good. It actually sounds, those little embellishments that you added make it sound so much more like real Baroque music and not so schematic the way we were doing. Yeah, so that's a big improvement. You could actually
have a lot of fun with these exercises. You could just play around with it and your own little write your own answers and with the on top of the you could have a blast.
Absolutely. No, that's the whole point, is fooling around at the piano is really the name of the game as far as I'm concerned. And so what I want to do is give students things to work on. Like if you were in my class, I would say, okay, take these 4 notes, subject and answer, go home, make up a counter subject, come back and play it for the class. But I want to just interject here that you could do these exercises in writing, and you would still derive a lot of benefit. But I think what you're doing is, as you say, it's much more thrilling than writing it down.
This is really fun.
So now what we want to know is if the combination of the embellished counter subject or counter answer
Right.
is invertible with respect to the subject. So what you want to play is maybe play the subject in a low register, go down a couple octaves. Now go down.
Something like that? Okay.
Okay, what you're doing is fine.
Oh.
Yeah, that was too easy. You must have practiced.
No, it's not over yet. You jinxed it. Okay. Well, let's go a bit higher. So that.
Wait. You hold on.
Oh, I missed the A.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay. All right. Let's try that again. So.
Sure.
No. Now I'm confused. Okay, so this should be.
Oh, okay. I know why you're confused. Wait. Stop. I know why you're confused. It's because the subject that you're about to play has to appear in an upper voice.
Yeah.
So when you go si la sol, then the subject has to come a sixth above the G sharp.
Okay. So do I start on the counter subjects and then add the answer?
Honestly,
it doesn't matter.
Wait, it does. The counter subject.
No.
You want an E above.
Oh.
That's it.
Wow,
now
you're swapping.
Really exactly.
Oh,
so
wow.
It turns out
that is wild.
It turns out that your counter melody is invertible with respect to the theme.
Yep.
And you have begun to figure out that you can bring one in above the other or below the other, either way.
Okay.
And that gives you a lot of freedom to make the order of entries a little less predictable.
That's wild. So that means that the entries could be down, could be up. That's wow. Okay.
That's right. Well, that's a lot of freedom. So it's good to start out with something simple that you can, so here's what you've memorized. You've memorized the subject, the answer, obviously, the counter subject, the counter answer. You've memorized how to connect them. But then if you're going to actually sit down at the organ and improvise a little fugue, you have to plan where are the entries going to be, and then how are you going to make those connections? And then that becomes a little more complicated.
Oh, well, this has been awesome. Are there more examples like this in your book?
Yes. I don't want your listeners to think that all our subjects are 4 notes long. So maybe we could maybe
it's good. We could look. It's all I can handle.
Maybe
right
we could look. Maybe we could look at one from the next chapter. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, so I think people can see.
Okay. Okay, so now I want to explain that these partimenti are chosen very carefully to illustrate concepts from the chapters. So the chapter we just did, which was chapter 7, is all about here's the subject, here's the answer, here's the subject, here's the answer.
Right.
But in fact, in a lot of music, there's a little transition to get from the subject to the answer, and it often modulates to the other key. So the one you're looking at now, first of all, has a little bit longer, which is nice.
Yeah.
And there's a little a measure and a beat called mod, which means modulation. And then that leads to the answer. And the answer ends with a remodulation back to the tonic. And because the distance from tonic to dominant is not the same as the distance from dominant to tonic, the modulation and the remodulation are different music.
Okay, so shall we? Maybe I'll just play it first.
Sure.
So. Modulation.
That's
remod.
Right. That's good. Why don't you start higher up? Because I think what you have to do now is remember the modulation and the remodulation.
Okay.
That's the new adventure in this chapter.
Is that high enough?
Yeah, that's good. Okay, that's fine. So now you want to make up a same thing you did before. The first thing is the subject. You want to make up a counter subject.
Okay.
And then you have to make a little music in that third measure that leads to the dominant. And then you want to try to play the same counter subject.
So the subject is alone.
The
subject is by itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
And then when the counter subject, so I am clear and everyone who's new to this is clear, that happens after the mod, or is it during the mod?
No. It happens. It happens after the mod. So the subject, the last note of the subject is really the D.
Okay.
And that has to connect to the first note of the counter answer.
Okay. So if I'm going to start, maybe I can start. Would it be okay with octave? Maybe here. Be okay?
Yeah, I have an idea. Wait, I have an idea. Suppose you repeat the note in the counter melody.
Okay.
So go da 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 da.
With every note?
Well, I would do a quarter and an eighth.
Okay. Oh, sorry. No. Let me do that one more time. 1, 2. One time. Okay, one more time. And then down to F sharp. Okay. No, is that right?
Yes.
That's right. Do I need to harmonize this?
Well, that would.
Or could I maybe do?
Okay, so now we have to talk. Now we have to talk for a second. First of all, it turns out it was quite difficult for you to remember to do that rhythm.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da. That's your counter subject. But because it has its own independent rhythm, it's actually developed into a kind of line on its own. It's really, this is so interesting to me. And I'm just discovering this right now. Nadia Boulanger, one of the things she taught was that it's a big adventure to repeat a note. It's something special. Holding, like if you're writing harmony, you think, oh, I'm just going to hold this note for like 6 measures.
Yeah.
But you can give the thing, a huge amount of life and independence by re-articulating a note. It's fantastically interesting. And it turns out it's quite difficult because that line suddenly has its own demands. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is that when you said, should I alter this? And the answer obviously is yes. You can't play the same thing over the modulation and the remodulation.
Right.
But one of the things you did was you went to the third above the starting note, above the above. Right, right there, right. The next note is going to be an E. And then, 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 and No, well, it seemed to me it went sol, fa, re, mi would be a good line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So if you do that, then what you've discovered is that you like a third
Yeah.
above
I love
the
thirds.
start. Of course you do. So you like a third. That means that your counter subject or your counter answer, maybe it should always begin a third above instead of just having instead of just having that long
Just starts on a
notes.
third then.
Yeah. What are you going to do now, though?
Oh,
Yeah,
then I
see
have
that.
to get to no, so I have to.
So right,
Or I could.
that was good. No, that's good. Go down to the C. Step down to the C, and now do the same thing.
Okay. Should I go down to the?
No, you had a good thing before. Your thing before was.
No.
No, hold on.
I'm doing totally different things now.
Yeah, don't do totally different things. Just go mi, re, do, si, do.
Okay.
Yeah, I would wait one beat
Okay,
to put
one
the
beat.
B.
So,
No,
would I wait?
You should.
Sorry.
You know what you should do? You should repeat it. Repeat the C.
Okay.
Also, like you used to. No, you're allowed to have that seventh.
I'm allowed. Oh, yeah, I was worried about that. Okay, so. Should I repeat it or should I just hold it?
No, just hold it, I guess. I would repeat it on the. Yeah, that's good. That's right.
Now, do I go up? Tritone?
You can do the tritone either way, up or down, tritone or diminished fifth.
But I went down the last time, right? Maybe I should.
I think you should continue to go down.
Yeah.
I see. You're too close. You're too close to your subject now, right?
Okay, but that's kind of what happened, right? At the end of the first time.
Yeah.
I did.
So here's the difference: is that your counter subject is different now from your counter answer, because you're over C, D, E in the subject. You're going E, D, C, and when you get to the G entrance in measure 4, you're already on a G, so you don't do that little thing. And the fact is that little alteration might not be a big deal. Maybe you subject. Your counter melodies don't have to be exactly the same every time, because what you've got going now actually sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
So what do you say we move on?
Okay, so here we are. Example, the Handel example.
That's right. So this example, now this is already chapter 10. And in chapter 10, we deal with tonal answer, which is one of the most interesting things in fugue. And this subject by Handel goes from the dominant note, it passes down with those little 16th notes to the tonic note. But then in the answer, we want to do the reverse. We want to go from the tonic note, F, down to the dominant note. And it turns out there's a different number of 16th notes in there. If you try to pass down, you can't do it. So what Handel does, and many composers do, is they repeat the note and then go down only 3 steps. So you go down 4 steps in the beginning, that's 5 notes, and then you go down 4 notes in the answer, and that gets you where you want to go. So that's what tonal answer is. So one thing that's useful, again, is to play subjects and answers alternatingly, starting on the highest note on the keyboard,
Okay.
and just keep doing it all the way.
Oh, this is a B natural. No. I feel like I memorized it.
I hope so.
No. Does it keep going? That was a lot of fun. That's a workout.
I think you keep going until you run out of keyboard.
Oh.
So now let me tell you about Nadia Boulanger, a little story, because it reminds me of what you're doing here. We used to have a keyboard harmony class in the morning, starting at 9:00, and there were 2 pianos in her living room, and she would put 2 students at each keyboard. So one was in the high register and one was sort of in the middle register, and you would start to play sequences, so modulating sequences. So maybe you played and you modulated down a fourth, then you modulated down another fourth, and then you modulated down another fourth, and you kept going. And when you got to the end of the keyboard, you had to get up and run up to the other part of the piano bench and sit down to the right of your companion, who by then was in the middle of the keyboard, and then you would continue on down. And occasionally she would say, "What key are you in now?" And you honestly, it was exactly what you're doing here. Is you had to think, "Oh yeah, now I need B natural because I'm in the dominant," that kind of thing. And then finally she stopped us and she said, "If you could do this until noon, you would be a saint." And at the time I thought that was sort of silly, but I realized that it showed her values, how much she valued concentration. And stick with it. No, do it again. Did you make a little mistake? Do it again. And that's why I like this exercise of going down the keyboard, because you make a little mistake and then you recover and you keep going. And eventually you get very fluent. And that's what I think Partimento is good for, is a kind of fluency with the material that it's very hard to do that in writing, because writing, you keep stepping back and sharpening your pencil and erasing and stuff like that. Okay, that's so awesome. There's another little thing we can do with this, because one of the things we like to teach in some later chapter is how to get to distant keys. And one way to get to distant keys is to not sound the subject alternating with the answer, but just subjects in a row. So when you get to the F, you play the subject form of the melody, which is F, E flat, D, C, B flat. And you that way it's going to modulate around. Would you like to try that? So start on high C, and when you get to F, play the subject version of the tune, which goes down 5 notes.
Now I'm going to play the subject. Oh, I see.
Whoop.
Oh, right. Gosh, I'm in B flat. Okay, so wait, key change?
That's it.
Oh no. Okay. No. B flat.
Okay, stop. What key are you in? What key are you in now?
D flat.
Correct. So that was brilliant, and watching you think is such a pleasure for me. Okay, so chapter 10 is about tonal answer, and maybe we could look at a little Partimento that uses a tonal answer.
Oh, yeah,
so, yeah. Okay, so here's what the deal is. We said that the subject and answer are different, usually right at the beginning when you're using tonal answer. And so the dotted line in the second measure and in the third measure, that little dotted line shows where the difference is. What's the difference between the subject and the answer? So you can see that the subject overall goes from the dominant note and it ends on the tonic note, which is the first note of the answer. And the answer goes from the tonic note, we're in D major, down to the first note of the answer, the first note of the next entrance, right, which is the dominant note. So somewhere there has to be a little adjustment. And here the adjustment is that the second in the first measure is answered by a third in the second measure. So, and you can see that Pasquini, this is another Pasquini one. Pasquini intends you to play the subject alone because he doesn't put numbers until you get to the answer.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should just play through it. So
yeah, that's good.
And then that's the answer. Then it goes. Okay. Then it just continues. Okay.
So, do you have it memorized?
Let me do that one more time.
Try to do it without looking at the score.
Okay. Kind of have to. Okay, I got it. I think I got it. I have it somewhere.
That's good. That's good. So, you know what I like about this is I don't think you're thinking so much as just remembering. And
it's
I think
nice
that's
subject.
Yes, it is a nice subject.
It's easy to remember, actually.
So I think it's good to just have it in your ear.
Yeah.
More than thinking all the time about what's actually going on here. Okay, so now what we want to do is make up a counter subject and a counter answer.
Okay. So I'll play the subject first. Okay. Now that's the answer.
That's the beginning of the answer.
So I'll put the
voice singing. Okay, fine. That's fine.
Okay, then 6. Okay, now flat. Okay. Oh, this is sharp. And then how's that?
That's great. It's just fine. And now you have to figure out how to connect to the something that sounds the same as the counter answer, but is the counter subject. So remember what intervals you had? I think you said you
One
liked
step at a
thirds.
time. Well, okay. Okay,
You said you liked thirds,
I
man.
love thirds.
So I think you just stick with them.
Let me just do the answer one more time. Get it in my hand. Sorry. Okay, I think I have it. Okay, so now, okay, wow, I have to think of something for the counter subject. Is that right? Oh no, something for the subject.
Where's the subject going to enter? What note? Just play it.
F sharp. No, C sharp.
A is the answer.
A is
subject starts on A,
right,
and your counter subject is going to start on C sharp.
Yes. Okay, so then I have to.
That's it.
Okay.
So the difference is that you skipped in parallel thirds. It's
right.
by step now instead of by thirds.
Okay, then do I have to follow the figures that Pasquini gives? 6.
That you are, because your counter subject did that already.
Oh,
whoops.
Sharp.
No.
Oh wait.
Because now you're back in D.
Ah, okay. So
you want G natural. No.
G.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Okay, C sharp. Yeah. All right. And then continue.
Yep.
Oh, look at me! I'm doing. This is so awesome. Now what? No. Yeah. Okay, wait. I have a question. So now, I ended on the C, but there's quite a jump to go from this A to this C sharp.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. So here's what you need to know: is that C sharp that you ended on is a voice that's going to take over the counter subject.
So this voice disappears.
That voice disappears, and so you're always. So right now you're only playing the subjects and the counter subjects, and then the answers and the counter answer. But the counter answer is in the voice that the subject had, and the other voices disappear. Obviously, when you really play a fugue, you're going to keep those other voices going and thicken up the texture.
Right.
But this is really just to get you started, and you can see sort of architecturally that it's actually not completely natural.
Wow.
First.
You mean to tell me that people do this at a high level, and I can see it now, because it's kind of a mystery how they got to I'm starting to see the pieces now. They fall into place of how the steps to take to get this to a level of fluency.
That's right. And if you were 8 years old, it would be going a lot faster, because it would, instead of playing video games, you'd be doing this.
That's right.
And the same brain that you're using to do that, you would be using to do this.
This is kind of a
good at it.
Musical video game itself, in a way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, 100%. 100%. So I'd like you to do that again, because it was going so well.
Oh, okay, that was okay. You got to focus.
I think if you could do this until noon, you would be a saint.
Let's go for sainthood. So, okay, now, oh wait, I played the answer without putting a count. I played the counter. I played the answer without the counter subject, right? That's
without the counter answer. Yeah,
without the counter. Okay, let me do that again. Ooh, and then I have to keep going, right? Okay.
Yep.
Then it starts on.
Right.
Okay. Okay, I could. No. No. Did I do that?
Yes. It was good.
Wow.
Yeah. That was very good.
I was
That,
not thinking of the score now. I had memorized the counter subject, and I was in the zone.
that's it. It's really like an athletic thing. That's absolutely right. I thought that was wonderful what you did. Congratulations.
Fugues.
So that's just how you get started. And I think that makes a very good start. And then eventually you can do more things with it. But
that
the
is
reason.
absolutely incredible. Okay, so
So what I like about Partimento, and I've talked to my students about it because I've done some of this with them, is it's a very different kind of thinking than when you're thinking about chords, because you have to remember two lines at once, and actually that turns out to be sort of an adventure.
I really have to say that was accessible. That was not something that is like only for geniuses, because I'm certainly no genius, and I was having fun doing it, and it was, I just, for anyone who is listening or watching, you can do that too. I mean, seriously, that was accessible. And it's not something to be, I mean, if you're lucky to have Professor Schubert guiding you through the way, I mean, but I was lucky in that sense. But I can also see that this is not. He's showing me that this is not something that is impossible. It's not like you have to be some kind of 18th century master to even start this. Anyone can start this.
Yeah, that's right. I'm really glad that you enjoy it and that you like it so much, because I think there's a lot of benefit to be gained from this. One thing is, when we used to do writing exercises, people would like go completely off the rails and start writing long strings of 16th notes and get completely out of control. And one thing about Partimento is it sort of forces you into a kind of good behavior. It forces you to stay in the style, to use the rhythms that are appropriate, not to get too wild with your chromaticism and stuff. So it gives you a framework to work in that I think is very helpful for a beginner.
Can I ask a question on how someone traditionally would have learned fugues? Like, what was it normal 20, 30 years ago? If somebody says, okay, now you're going to learn fugue, the teacher then would say, this is what we're going to do. So how would that have normally worked out in a classroom in North America?
Well, we just wrote. That's all we did was write things. Nobody played anything. I mean, maybe at the end you would say, "Oh, listen to my little fugue I wrote," and that was nice. But it wasn't. It didn't involve memory. It didn't involve the ear very much. It was really a sort of a crossword puzzle, a kind of exercise.
A crossword puzzle.
Well, because you have to fit things together, and you have to make sure it all works out, and you've got the right answer. So it was a very different kind of experience, and I think this that using Partimento makes it more less abstract, more real, and that the fluency is so important. I've talked to you about before about Duolingo, because I'm a big fan of Duolingo.
Right.
And I'm a big fan of not thinking. The whole point of Duolingo is there's no grammar. They don't tell you this has to agree with this. They just give you a little sentence. They say, shut up and say this. And that's what Partimento is. Partimento is just do it.
Yeah.
And so there's so much to be gained from that. Theory is good. I like theory a lot, but sometimes you can learn faster and more deeply if it's in your body and if it's in your ear.
Right. Can I?
So,
now I want to ask you. This is the part where I'm going to ask you a bunch of miscellaneous questions that have accrued over the last year or so since your last appearance, and this could be fun. You mentioned some of the composers. Can we talk about? Let's talk about. Okay, so first of all, maybe we should talk about the ones mentioned in your book. Maybe say a short reflection on. Let's start with one. So maybe we could start with Pasquini. What's a reflection you have just off the top of your head when you think about Pasquini? As it relates to your book and teaching counterpoint and that sort of thing.
Well, so as I said, we use partimenti that are appropriate for each chapter, and it eventually you get to a chapter about inverting the subject, like melodic inversion.
Right.
And so there's a Pasquini example where he writes, entra il soggetto al roverso, entra la fuga al roverso. So there's even a partimento that does the subject in inversion, which is fun. Pasquini is eventually we use less and less Pasquini as the book goes on, because Longlows and Fenaroli wrote much longer, more interesting pieces. Pasquinis are not intended as little fugues to play in a concert. They're meant for quick play a verset for the church. So they're not very demanding, and they're not very interesting in the long run.
Right.
So eventually you want to get to Handel, because Handel is really quite interesting. Fenaroli is quite interesting. The Longlows manuscript, those are like real pieces.
Let's talk about Handel then. So what is, when you hear about, we bring up Handel and his counterpoint and his fugues, what comes out to you?
One thing is that Handel is much easier to understand than Bach. So Handel writes a lot of his music, really, maybe everything in our book at least, is in what we call strict style, which means that at any moment you can tell what the chord is supposed to be. Whereas Bach introduces so many accented passing tones and things operating on different levels that you sometimes have no idea if there's even a chord there. So Handel is a more emphatic and clear composer, but he does very complicated, interesting things. Like in our book, we have one example from some chorus. Maybe it's from the Messiah, actually, where he has the subject against itself in augmentation, and then he inverts it at the 12th. So that's just a spectacular example of contrapuntal skill, and yet it's very clear what the harmonies are at any given moment. So that's a really good example.
You mentioned Fenaroli. What about Fenaroli? His later books deal with the Partimento fugues. And so what do you think about Fenaroli's Partimento fugues?
Well, there's only a couple of them that we added to our book, and they're very long. Oy, you want concentration. If you could do this until noon, it's going to take you until noon to get through the piece. And one of the things he did was he wrote them in different keys. And some of the keys are like way out there, like C sharp major. There's one example in our book in C sharp major. And his style is not quite, it's not, reminds you of Baroque music, but it's not quite Baroque. So I think it's very refreshing to play a Fenaroli, because it's tastes a little different from Handel and Bach.
Marburg? What about Marburg?
Marburg we use him a lot. We relied on him entirely, him and Matheson, for our discussion of tonal answer, which is such a complicated issue. Marburg's fugues, I'll tell you a funny story. So we were writing this book, and we would sit at the piano sometimes and look through other people's fugues just to see what's going on. And Marburg has some fugues that we found. And Christoph started playing one, and I said, "This is terrible. This is terrible music." And Christoph said, "That's because he's only doing one thing at a time." Where you say, "Okay, I'm going to play the subject and the counter subject. Now I'm going to play the answer and the counter answer. Now I'm going to repeat that." And that's what Marburg's fugues were like. They were like, "Okay, now do this." And everything changed and you did that. Whereas with a great composer, you have a sense that even though a new subject or answer came in, it's part of some longer crescendo, or it's part of some longer ascent into a high register. Or so there's many things happening at once. And this great comment of Christoph's that he's only doing one thing at a time.
Now, to be fair, did you hear all his fugues? Is that a general sense?
No. We only found a few.
Okay.
Maybe I don't mean, no, the guy's a great, valuable resource for us as a theorist, but he doesn't have to be a good composer. Okay. Kernberger has some crazy, wacky fugues.
Let's speak about Kernberger, who is a student of Bach near the end of Bach's life.
Well, Kernberger was useful to us because mostly about harmony more than about fugue. So Matheson and Marburg are what we used for fugue, but Kernberger was very good for, we have to do a sort of review of harmony in this book. And Baroque harmony is a little different from standard harmony that you study in, year one of your university studies. So we used his concepts of accented dissonance, unaccented dissonance, stuff like that, to refresh and to show that there was a little difference for the student. So
I think in the later Partimento books, the figures seem to vanish in the Italians, but not so much the Germans. The Germans seem to maintain the figures, but the Italians proceed with unfigured basses. What do you make of unfigured Partimenti versus figured, like the Germans who put figures? I think CPE Bach was quite, I think he explored unfigured bass, but he said it's not quite systematic as the Italians would say they were.
Yeah, I don't know about that, because I know there's an awful lot of music, and German music included, that where the bass is unfigured. Now, I don't know the whole repertoire of Partimenti, but again, I'm thinking about Pasquini. Some of his are very irregularly figured. So maybe he figures it the first time it happens, and then he doesn't figure it any of the other times, because he knows you're going to remember that when you played this bass line, you played it with these figures.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's really a meaningful distinction, because everybody was expected to look at a bass line and figure out what you were supposed to do with it. I don't think that figures are a big issue. In the 17th century, there were little rules which continue to apply. Like if the note is solmized mi, that would be in C major, that would be a B or an E. Mm-hmm. They said, so play a 6 above it and don't bother me. And other ones you can play root position chords above. So there are lots of little shortcuts and habitual things that would inform it, whether it was figured or not.
Are the Baroque and the Renaissance alien worlds apart, or is there kind of, because why I ask that is because there seems to be that it's clear that the so-called Baroque in the Italian conservatories, they were still singing plain chant even in the 18th century up to the 19th century. They were singing church music. I even noticed that the Leonardo Leo would mark his scores in a Mixolydian key. They weren't, so this idea that Baroque is purely major minor is not necessarily 100% kosher across the whole of Europe. And it seemed that some of that Renaissance theory, that Renaissance practice, that church practice still seemed to maintain into the Baroque era. So do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, there's what you say reminds me of Jean-Paul Montagnier, edited 2 or 3, I can't remember, treatises from France in 1720s and even the 40s. And these are treatises on improvising over vocal improvisation over a cantus firmus, a chant cantus firmus. So we know that in France, we know 2 things from this. That one was that in France, in the early 18th century, they were still improvising on chant. It was still a thing being done, just as in the Renaissance, no difference. So forget chords, forget harmony. Some boy sang a line against a Gregorian chant. But the other thing we learned from it is that it was probably a continuous practice all over the whole 17th and into the 18th century, but that somebody felt they needed to write a book about it in the 18th century because it was probably fading out. So if somebody writes a book, it might be because the thing is fading out. So what I'm trying to say is that practices overlap wildly. Like Sarah Fuller has a very nice a chapter about singing in parallel fifths. And you think that history moves ahead steadily, and people sang in parallel fifths, and then they stopped. It was bad. Don't do that anymore. We're going to do this other thing. But in fact, they kept singing in parallel fifths. Also, Fiorentino talks about that too. So practices overlap wildly. And even Bach wrote something about ut re tonalities or something.
Right.
So you think that old things are discarded, but they aren't.
Question: can an adult who has missed out on their childhood music training, can an adult learn to improvise, learn to compose, learn counterpoint? Or is it too late?
As an optimist, I'm going to say yes. But you know that it's harder to learn a language as an adult, and music is not that different, I don't think, from a language. So you have to practice a lot. I mean, these kids, think about the kids in the orphanages who did Partimento. They didn't do anything else. The keyboard was by the bed, apparently. I just learned this. And so they got up in the morning and they started to play the keyboard. I mean, if you do that all day, and then they had to go perform in church and so forth. So if you do that all day, I think you will master it. And so I have to ask you, Nikhil, do you have all day?
When you have kids, they make it harder.
Oh, exactly. If you have a life, it gets harder.
Yeah.
So I do think it's possible, and but I think you really would have to throw yourself into it.
So it's possible, but you need to have that time, like children do in their childhood. They have time to apply themselves.
When they learn language, they're not doing anything else. They're listening to mommy and daddy talk, and they're trying to do the same thing. Right. So they do nothing but all day. So think about that.
Is improvisation necessary to learn counterpoint and to learn music?
Well, no, because all of us, anybody my age, didn't improvise. That was not, we didn't even know that existed. I think it makes you a better musician. I think it helps you internalize concepts in a very real, sort of almost physical way. But clearly it's not necessary. It's just a very good add-on.
Is singing necessary for all musicians?
Yes. Absolutely. The one thing that we can do, that we can rely on, is to imitate what somebody else sings. And then once we have it in our body, we can analyze it. We can say, oh, what's this interval? What would make a good chord here if I want to harmonize it? but I think singing is absolutely essential.
Do you have any comment on, is Professor Mortensen with you guys in McGill right now, or did he visit before, or is that coming up?
No, it's coming up. He's going to come. And in fact, there's going to be a panel, I think, that I might participate in. I think that's in the spring. That's next term that's going to happen.
That sounds great. I mean, I'm a fan of him. I'm a fan of you. Please let the stars align so that this could happen.
Okay.
I think that,
and I'll say hi to him for you.
Any other final questions? What kind of music do you like to listen to for pleasure?
I can't believe you're asking me that.
I have to.
It's so embarrassing. Like lately, I'm completely into Kanye West.
You said this the last time.
Oh, I did?
You said you were a fan of Kanye West.
But in the, like 2 years ago when we did that interview, because I didn't think I was into him at that time. But now I'm really into him. Right. So this is like 808s and Heartbreak is like all I listen to.
Really?
And you like that? You like that album?
I'm not familiar with it.
You should get familiar with it. Okay. So I have a number of things to say about this because I had my counterpoint class, listen to Young Jeezy, I Put On, which is a great song because there's really good counterpoint in it. And I had them write down the different strands that were in the beat.
Right.
I don't much, if it's just spoken rap, I don't actually pay much attention to the words. I'm really interested in how they construct beats. So, and the beats are very contrapuntal. And so 808s and Heartbreak has a lot of really good counterpoint in it.
Well, good. My brother-in-law is a drummer, and I was listening to him practice, and often, of course, if you just do on the pads, just the same pads over and over, it's just the same. But if you revoice the notes across the drum set, it's a counterpoint. And he was saying, yeah, it's exactly what makes it sound fresh and makes it interesting.
Yep.
Is that, and there's no pitch, and yet it sounds so interesting and engaging, even though there's the pitch is different.
There's no pitch, but there's timbre.
Yep.
So the different size drums and different when you have cymbals versus drums and bass drum. So no, that's exactly right. In fact, I think one of the things that we neglect a little bit in our teaching of counterpoint is rhythm. Like, remember just a few minutes ago when you had to play that repeated note, that was so interesting because the line became more independent, but it became harder for you to control.
Right.
So I can see that.
Well, what can I say? I mean, it's been really a pleasure to have Professor Peter Schubert here. He is, like I said, counterpoint royalty, and and really an inspiration to a lot of us musicians who are really just coming back to counterpoint and coming back to these great tools and pedagogies that really had a bad rap, I'd have to say, over the last couple of decades. And I know for myself, when I was in college, people said, counterpoint, let's just get the 2 terms over with, the 2 semesters, and we'll just go right over to something else. And they didn't see the relevance of it, which is a really shame. But we're seeing a lot of people on forums are asking, how can I learn counterpoint now? How can I learn it? And they're recognizing something is different because they keep hearing that counterpoint is important historically. I think it's interesting because I think when people taught counterpoint, wasn't it synonymous with composition? Like when you're going to learn composition in the past, synonymous with composition. You don't learn composition without counterpoint in the past.
In the 16th century, the word counterpoint actually only meant improvised counterpoint. So those people did not write exercises. They immediately looked at a cantus firmus and did complicated things. So.
Oh, that's incredible. Well, thank you so much, Professor Schubert. I can't wait for your book. And please, I hope you'll come back on again. And I would love to be a guinea pig again for the next round of whatever incredible article or book that you write. Apologies for my mistakes. And
now you're, oh, please, you were great. And also, I do have some ideas, unfortunately, so I may be in touch with you.
Oh, please. Keep doing what you're doing and inspiring the next generation of students with your fine work. Thank you so much,
Oh,
Professor
thank you.
Schubert.
That's so nice. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.